Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to your online lecture series of EE222 Microprocessor Systems. This is the first lecture of week 14, your lecture number 40. And in this lecture, we are going to discuss the motor speed and direction control using PIC18, stepper motor control, and embedded assembly in C language. This lecture belongs to the CLO 5 of your course, that is mapped to C4 level in Bloom's taxonomy, and is related to design and analysis and development of code for real-life applications. So far, we have covered the course contents that are highlighted in green, and currently today we are going to start the interfacing of external peripheral devices using embedded C language with PIC18 microcontroller. That is our last topic of this course. So let's start with our lecture. So before moving on to the next code, let me give a brief overview of the code we developed in our previous lecture. In previous lecture, this is the code that we developed that is open right now in front of me and on your screens also. In this code, what we did was we used an ADC in interrupt mode, and we took the value of ADC to determine the duty cycle of our PWM in real time. And in the final example, we connected a sine wave with that analog input. So that analog value was continuously changing, and as a result, the duty cycle of our pulse width modulation, the waveform, was continuously changing. And we successfully generated a sine pulse width modulation waveform, the SPWM waveform. I showed you the simulation in our previous lecture of the SPWM, but as the lecture was getting quite long, so I skipped some further details on that. So let's discuss those details today, and then we will move on to our lecture, to our topic of today's lecture. First, let me tell you that I have changed some values of ADCON1 and ADCON2 registers. Why I have changed them? Let's see the ADC module. In the ADCON, not the ADCON1 register, only the ADCON2 register. So I have changed the value of ADCON2 register for the acquisition time and the conversion time. Previously, we selected the minimum acquisition time and minimum conversion time or maximum conversion clock frequency, but the Proteus was giving some error, and as we are not going into the detailed calculations, you can study that how much acquisition time and how much conversion time you need for a particular waveform. We are just being on the safe side, and we are using a 6 TAD and increased acquisition time to let the data be acquired reliably, and we are also increasing the conversion time. So 010 and 011 will be used in ADCON2 instead of all zeros. So I have written it here. The second thing I have done just for today's lecture, just for today's demonstration of my previous lecture, I have used a prescaler of 16 in T2con to increase the time period. Why I have increased the time period of the waveform? Because in this case, I am first going to generate a scare wave, and then I am going to filter that scare wave using a simple capacitor and see what kind of waveform we will be getting. And then we are going to generate an SPWM, and then we will filter that waveform and see what results we are getting. So the rest of the code is same. Let's compile this code and let's simulate it in Proteus. So this is the same design file that we were using in our previous lecture. Here I have again connected a DC voltage source of 2.5 volts at the analog input. So now the duty cycle of my waveform will be 50%. Let me remove this capacitor and let's try to simulate this code. Here you can see that a scare wave is generated at the PWM output, and the frequency of this scare wave is approximately 1/4 kilohertz or 250 hertz. So it is somewhat near to what we were generating in previous lecture, that was 100 Hertz waveform. The sine wave was 100 Hertz. So I wanted to keep the duty cycle and the time period of these two waveforms similar for comparison. So let's assume we are not using SPWM and we are generating a scare wave for our inverters, and we filter this scare wave to get somehow an output wave near to the sine wave. So what we should expect, what kind of waveform we should expect? Let's connect a filter and see what happens. I am connecting a simple capacitor as the low pass filter with this output, and we can see that our output has been converted into a triangular wave, a deformed triangular wave instead of a scare wave. So once we integrate a scare wave, we get a triangular wave. We are not getting a sine wave. What is the advantage of using a sine wave over a scare wave or a triangular wave in our inverter applications? Scare wave has almost all the frequencies inside that. So if we draw a frequency spectrum of a scare wave, there are multiple hundreds and thousands of frequencies inside that scare wave, and all those frequencies are being fed to our appliances, but our appliances are designed to work at a single frequency, that is 50 Hertz or 60 Hertz. Similarly, triangular wave also has many different frequencies in it. So if we draw a frequency spectrum of a triangular wave, again there are hundreds and thousands of frequencies inside this triangular wave. So again, a lot of frequencies are being fed to our appliances at a time, but they are designed to work on a single frequency, and feeding them with multiple frequencies will damage the appliance. But now let's change that scare wave to an SPWM and then try to filter it and see what will happen in that case. So I will again connect this sine wave as the reference analog input wave, and I will change the prescaler to 1. Let's compile the code again and let's build it. And I have also changed some properties of this sine wave. So I have given it an offset of 2.37. The peak amplitude is 5. So now my waveform will approximately go from 0 to 5 and then back. So the whole 100% time period will be almost above 0. In our previous case, it was going below 0 for 50% of the time, and our PWM remained off for half of the time period. So in this case, it will be completely on. So let's simulate it, and we can see here that we are getting an SPWM, a sine pulse width modulation at the output. So if I can change it here, you can see that the duty cycle of this SPWM is minimum when the amplitude of sine waves was minimum. Then it kept increasing and it reached almost 100% when the amplitude of sine wave was maximum, and again it kept decreasing, and this is our SPWM waveform. So let's try to filter it using the same capacitor and let's see what is the result. So here you can see the yellow one is our reference wave and the green one is our output wave. This is exactly a sine wave. It has some harmonics, it has some unwanted harmonics, but those are removed in considerable number, and the magnitude of those harmonics is also dampened considerably. So this is not going to damage our appliances. So in this case, we are getting exactly a sine wave output using a digital IC, using a digital microcontroller. So that is the significance of using SPWM, sine pulse width modulation, instead of simple scare wave. And this is what I was talking about in my previous lecture, that this technique is used extensively in your inverters and UPS devices. So now let's start our today's lecture, today's topic. And in today's lecture also, we will be using this same code. We will be just modifying this code, and what we are going to do is we are going to modify this code to use only the ADC input, the analog input, and use it to control the direction of the motor as well as the time period or the speed of the motor. So the duty cycle and the motor direction, both of them will be now controlled using the ADC. Previously what we were doing was we were controlling the direction of a motor using an external switch, using an external interrupt. So whenever the switch was pressed, the motor direction was changed, while the waveform duty cycle or the motor speed was controlled using the analog input. In this lecture, we are completely going to remove the external interrupt and we are going to use the analog values only that we read to control the speed and direction both. So what we will do is we will set some certain levels of our analog input, that for example, if my analog input is more than half, the motor should rotate in clockwise direction and with a certain duty cycle based on the magnitude of that. More than half but not constant, it can change from half to full. And if my analog input is from 0 to half of the value, the amplitude, the duty cycle of that waveform should change based on the magnitude of that input, and the direction should be counterclockwise in this case. So let's start programming. Let's start modifying this code and let's see how we are going to achieve this task. Okay, so first let me define the problem. Let's assume we have a 0 to 5 volt analog input at our channel A0 of ADC. We want to control the speed and direction of the motor based on this value. So let's assume I want my motor to rotate counterclockwise whenever a voltage level between 0 to 2.5 is available at the A0 input, and whenever a voltage level of 2.5 to 5 volt is present, I want to rotate my motor clockwise. This 0.5 will be translated, 0 to 2.5 will be translated to 0 to 128 if we are using an 8-bit mode of ADC, and this 2.5 to 5 will be translated to 128 to 255 in case of an 8-bit ADC. So this means that what we want to do is we want to check the value of ADC, and based on that value we want to take the decision of the direction control of the motor, and we also want to use this value to determine our duty cycle that will in turn define the speed of the motor. So 0 to 127 can be translated to 0 to 255 for a duty cycle of 0 to 100%, and 128 to 255 should be translated to 0 to 255 for a duty cycle of 0 to 100%. So what we want is we want a duty cycle of 0 to 100% in both cases, but the direction of the motor should change depending upon the input value at the ADC. So how to convert this 0 to 127 to 0 to 255? We can simply multiply this by 2. And how to convert this value 128 to 255 to 0 to 255? We can subtract this value 255 minus x into 2. So if we have 128, this value will be 128 into 2, and if we have 255, this value will be 0 into 2, that will be 0. So the inverse duty cycle will be selected in this case, and a regular duty cycle will be implemented in this case. In both cases, the duty cycle will range from 0 to 100, but the direction of the motor will be changed. So what we can do is we can write an if condition. If ADRESH is less than 128, we can move the CCPR1L with the value of ADRESH into 2, and in the other case we can use this formula, and we don't need an external interrupt in this case. So let's open the code we wrote in our previous lecture and let's modify it accordingly. So here is our code that we wrote in our previous lecture. The first thing we want to do here is we do not need an external interrupt. So I am removing the portion of external interrupt from the ISR. And now as only one interrupt is enabled, we don't need to check the flag ADIF also, because only one source is available for the interrupt. So whenever the interrupt comes, it is understood that it is because of that one source, that is the ADC. One mistake we made here was ADIF is equal to was set to 1 before exiting the loop. It should have been cleared to 0 before exiting the loop. So please correct it in your codes. Now coming to the main loop, we want port D as an output port as we did in the previous lecture. We want port C as the port C2 as the output port for the output A, B, C and D of the ECCP module. We want TRISC-A0 as input, as the analog input, but we don't want TRISC-B0 as the input because we are not going to use the external interrupt in this case. Then the values of ECCP1 con, add con and T2 con will remain the same. One thing that I have changed here is I have chosen different conversion time and conversion frequencies for ADC. Let me open the data sheet here. So if we go to the AddCon2 register, previously we loaded this AddCon2 register with all zeros, but now I have selected this 6 TAD and the F oscillator by 32 for the ADC to make sure that enough conversion time and enough acquisition time is given, because the Proteus was showing some errors. So this is the only change I made in the control register configurations. Then we had the global interrupt enabled, ADC interrupt enabled, and we don't need the external interrupt in this case, so let's remove that. The time period and the duty cycle are set as it is. The main loop requires no more modifications. All we have to do is inside the interrupt service routine. So what we want to do in the interrupt service routine now? First we have to check whether our ADC input was greater than or equal to 128 or less than or equal to 128. So I will write an if condition. If ADRESH is less than or equal to 128, do this. Do what? What I want to do? I want to set the direction of the motor and the duty cycle of the motor also. How to set the direction of the motor? By setting P1 M1 to 1 or 0. So let's set it to 0 in this case. Then I want to use this value to set the duty cycle also. So CCPR1L is equal to ADRESH into 2. This will convert the value of 0 to 128 to 0 to 255. So a duty cycle of 0 to 100% can be achieved. In the second condition, else if ADRESH is greater than 128, what I want to do? I want to change the direction of the motor. So P1 M1 is equal to 1. And also I want to set the duty cycle, and that duty cycle should also be from 0 to 100. So CCPR1L is equal to 250 minus ADRESH into 2. So now the direction and duty cycle of the motor both are controlled by the ADC value that is coming in real time. And then finally I will clear the interrupt flag and I will start again the conversion. So this is it. This is our code that we will be using to control the speed and direction of the motor using the ADC. So let's compile this code. The build is successful. Let's go to the Proteus. So here is your Proteus design. I have connected 4 NPN transistors, TIP122. Those are Darlington pair transistors that are high current gain transistors, and I have connected them in a full H-bridge configuration. This is our motor that is available in your Proteus design. So if I open the motor, I have set the nominal voltage value to 10 volts and I have set the nominal revolutions to 100 revolutions. Also, I have powered the H-bridge using a 20 volt DC power supply. And here at the RS0, I have connected a potentiostat. So when I change the value of this potentiostat, the analog value at RS0 will be changed, and that will be converted into the duty cycle that will determine the speed of this motor and also the direction of this motor. So let's simulate this code. Here is your output. So if you see here that the motor is currently rotating in the anti-clockwise direction very slowly, because this PWM is very small, the duty cycle is very small. So let's change the potentiostat value. You can see that the duty cycle is now increasing and the motor direction is still counterclockwise. So if I keep increasing, the duty cycle will keep increasing, the direction will remain the same and the speed will keep increasing. But as soon as it crosses the threshold of 2.5 volts, now the direction of the motor has reversed and the speed of the motor is at maximum at current point. So if I keep decreasing this, the duty cycle will keep decreasing as you can see here on the oscilloscope, and the speed of the motor will also keep decreasing, and finally it will be approximately 0. So in this way we can control the speed and direction of the motor both based on a single ADC input. We can use multiple channels of ADC, but it depends upon our application. So this code is almost similar to the code that we made in our previous lecture of ECCP and ADC. Here there is a message from the Proteus that the simulation is not running in real time due to the excessive CPU load, and that's what I was discussing in one of our previous lectures, that the animation time is shown here. So if you try to generate a waveform and calculate the delay using stopwatch in real time, there may be a mismatch because the time domain of Proteus will be different from the time domain of your actual real time. So this is our first code, that was the motor control, speed and direction of the motor, DC motor. And now the next thing we are going to discuss in today's lecture is the stepper motor control, the speed and direction of a stepper motor. So how to program a stepper motor using PIC18 in C language, and we will also discuss how to embed assembly language commands inside our C language code and why they are useful. So let's first start with what is a stepper motor. Okay, so this is an animation from Wikipedia of a stepper motor internal circuit, a very basic diagram, and you can see here that this is a geared motor in simple words, and there are 4 excitation coils for this motor. So by sending pulses one by one, by exciting these 4 coils one by one, we can give one step to this motor. So this stepper motor is used for precise position control. In case of a DC motor, you can feel that the axle, if you try to rotate it, it is freely moving. You cannot start and stop a DC motor at some precise position, at some precise angle. For example, if you start from angle 0 and you want precisely 3 or 4 degrees rotation of a DC motor, you cannot do it without an additional feedback of an encoder. But in case of stepper motor, there are multiple excitation coils inside this its structure, and by one alternatingly exciting these coils, we can give one step to this motor and the motor will rotate it one step at a time. So at one transition the motor will take one step, and the second transition the motor will take a second step. And this is a geared motor, so its holding torque is very good. It has a very high holding torque. So if the motor is not being rotated, it is very difficult to move the axle of the motor, and it is very extensively used in precise position control. So what we have to do is we have to give signals to these four coils one by one. As you can see here that a signal is given to the first coil, then the second coil, third coil and fourth coil, and the motor is taking one step at a time. So this motor has 4 inputs, not 2 inputs. 4 signals will be given to this motor. So what we have to do is we have to write a program that excites one coil at a time. And the standard code to drive this kind of stepper motor is we send signals like this to the stepper motor: 0 1 1 0, 0 0 1 1, 1 0 0 1, 1 1 0 0, and then again 0 1 1 0. So if we note here what is happening is that this data is being rotated, continuously being rotated, and it is rotated clockwise. If we rotate this data anti-clockwise, for example 0 1 1 0, 1 1 0 0, 1 0 0 1 and 0 0 1 1, and then back to 0 1 1 0, this is rotating this data counterclockwise. And the sequence in which we give these signals to our stepper motor coils, the 4 inputs of stepper motor, will determine in which direction the motor will rotate, and the delay we give between these two steps, these two values, will determine with which speed the motor will rotate. So what I can do is I can send one value to the stepper motor, wait for 1 second, and then give the other value. So the motor will take one step after 1 second. So it will move like this: 1 second, 1 step, 1 second, 1 step. But if I give a very small delay between these two values, for example a delay of 1 milliseconds, the motor will seem to rotate continuously, and it will seem to rotate smoothly. And by changing this delay, I can change the speed of the stepper motor, and by changing the rotation direction, I can change the direction of the motor. So all we have to do is we have to send these values one by one to any of our port and connect our stepper motor to those 4 pins of the port, and our stepper motor will start working. So let's write a code for that. This is a basic C language code. It has an empty main function. I have already copied a conventional delay subroutine in this one based on the for loop, and here I want to write the logic that will be needed to drive my stepper motor one by one. So what I need is I need 4 output pins. So let's make our port D as output. The whole port D will be output. Then what I want to do, I want to send a data of 0 1 1 0 on port D. So to write the data on any port, it is better to use the latch register. So I will load the latch D register with 0 x 6 6 hexa. I will be only using the lower 4 bits, but I am loading it with 0 x 6 6. So the upper 4 bits will also be rotated. And let me show you why I am loading it with 0 x 6 instead of 0 x 6. So 0 x 6 means 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 0. And if I rotate this data, what will happen? 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 1, and then again 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 1, and now my motor is connected to these 4 pins. So at a time 2 pins should have been 1, but now because I loaded my port with 0 cross 06, I am getting an error here. So I don't want to get this error, and I want to load 0 cross 66 so that 0110 0110 is rotated, and we will keep getting these values on both the upper and the lower nibbles. So we can control 2 motors at a time with 1 port. Even though we are connecting only 1 motor in today's lecture, we can connect 2 motors, 2 stepper motors on a same port at a same time. So let's go back to the code. I have loaded latch D with 0 cross 66. What else I want to do? What next? While 1, keep rotating. Now we know that there is one command in C language, that is let D is equal to let D and these arrows 1. What this command will do? This command will shift the data by 1. It will not rotate the data by 1. I will show you what will happen. Let's give a delay of 500 milliseconds. So let's see what happens if I just shift the data and do not rotate it. So let's build this program and let's try to simulate it in Proteus. This is our Proteus code. Keep observing this port D. I am going to start simulation now. You can see here the port becomes empty after a couple of seconds. After completing 4 shifts, the port is now empty because shifting is not equal to rotating. Shifting the data by 1 means 1 bit is lost and a 0 is inserted on the other side. Rotating a data means that a bit, the LSB or the MSB, comes out of the register from one side and is loaded back into the register on the other side, and that we cannot do using a C language command. We don't have any C language operation that can perform a rotate operation. So we have 2 options. Either we manually load the let D register with 0 cross 66 and then let D is equal to 0 cross 33 and so on, and then let D is equal to 0 cross 99 and so on. Either we manually do this or we try to use the rotate command somehow in our C code. Because if we remember, in assembly language we used to have a rotate command. Let me open the instruction set summary and let me go to the instruction set. Here you can see RRNCF, rotate write a file register without any carry. This command is available for PKTNF4550 in the assembly language, but we cannot access this command using any C language operation. So would it be nice if we can just use one assembly language command inside our C language code? Can we do that? Yes, we can. And how to do it? It's a very simple format. Let me copy it as it is. To write an assembly language instruction, one assembly language instruction inside your C language code, you have to use this format at line number 83. You have to write ASM, bracket, inverted commas, and write the assembly language instruction inside. So what I have written here is RRNCF, rotate write with no carry the file register. Which file register? Let D register. And then give a delay of 500 milliseconds and keep doing it. So after every 500 milliseconds, my register will keep rotating infinitely. and what will happen is my stepper motor will keep taking steps in one direction infinitely, and each 2 steps will have a delay of 500 milliseconds between them. So this is a very powerful tool that you can use your assembly language instructions inside your C language code to make a very efficient code, because here we know that we can write only one assembly language command to perform this operation, but on the other hand, if we want to do the same thing in C language, we have to write 7 different commands, and that is a very inefficient approach to do this task. So why not use the available instruction that we already have in our instruction set? So let's build this code and let's try to simulate it. The build is successful, so your C compiler is now recognizing that assembly language portion written in this specific format. You can add further commands of assembly language using the same format. Then let's simulate this code in Proteus. So you can see that this stepper motor is rotating counterclockwise. You can see here with a delay of 500 milliseconds, and it will keep rotating. It will keep rotating infinitely. If I want to change the speed of this rotation, I can change this delay. So let me change the delay to 20 milliseconds, and also let me change this instruction, the RRNCF, to RLNCF. So let's change the direction also. You can get an idea. Previously it was rotating counterclockwise. Now it should rotate clockwise with a substantially higher speed. See here, it is rotating clockwise with a substantially higher speed, but you can notice some jerks here. Why there are some jerks? The maximum speed of this motor has been set at 360 RPM. So I think that the delay I have given is too much for this motor to handle. So let's try to simulate it again. See, now it is rotating smoothly because I have changed the maximum RPM possible by this motor to achieve to 3600 RPM. This is a virtual instrument. I can change the limits of this motor very easily, but in real life you have to keep in mind that what is the maximum RPM that can be achieved by your motor. So the maximum RPM is limited by how fast you can switch your signal between one coil to the second coil. How long does it take one coil to discharge and the second coil to charge to let the stepper motor rotate? As you can see here, this motor seems to rotate very smoothly, and I have given a step of, I have changed some properties of this motor. I have given a step angle of 2. By default this is a step angle of 90. So if you don't get this result, just open the motor, give a step angle of 2, RPM of 3600 or higher, and your code will work fine. So this is the start of your real life applications, and in this lecture we have discussed how to interface different types of motors, DC motors and stepper motors, with your PK-Teen microcontroller using C language code and embedding some portion of assembly language instructions inside your code. One thing I would like to add here is that if I can open our previous design here, I quickly told that I have set the voltage value to 20 to power up this H bridge. So you can see here that my IC, my microcontroller IC, is working only from 0 to 5 volts, but I can control some other hardware interface devices that are operating at much higher voltage than the operating voltage of the microcontroller using some external circuit design. We can use relays instead of these transistors, and we can use optoisolators and any other circuit components, and we can control the devices that are operating at much higher voltage than the actual operating voltage of our microcontroller IC. So these things are going to come in handy in your projects and your future courses and lab projects. So this is it for today's lecture. This lecture was pretty short and pretty simple, but at the same time it was very important because this is the start of your actual application of your code that you are developing in C language for Piketty microcontroller using its different peripherals. So see you in the next live session, and if you have any questions related to this particular lecture, feel free to ask them in week 14 and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Till then, take care, stay safe, Allah Hafiz.